We're going to get back to politics now. I'm joined live out of Canberra by Liberal MP, member for Mackellar, Jason Falinski. Thanks for your company.
Thanks, PVO.
I know you've got a speech to get to on the floor of the chamber, so we'll get right into it. Are you as confident about your Polish citizenship as Barnaby Joyce was about his New Zealand citizenship?
Thank you, Peter. Yes, I'm very confident I'm not a Polish citizen, but thank you for your continuing interest in the subject.
All right, I just wanted to get that one out of the way so we can move on. All right, help me understand this. I saw these remarks earlier here on Sky News. Kevin Andrews has entered the same-sex marriage debate at the federal level. I'm sure that's welcome news to you. He said something along the following lines: I have a relationship with my cycling mates, but the law has no place in that relationship. What do you think he's getting at there?
Look, it's no secret that Kevin's opposed to reform to the Marriage Act or changing the definition of the Marriage Act to include two people of the same sex being able to get married.
What's that got to do with his relationship with his cycling mates?
Peter, we've had this discussion before. I encourage you to invite Kevin onto the program and ask him directly. Yeah,
but I mean, you're a smart man, Jason Falinski. I mean, help me understand it as someone who's obviously challenged on this front. What does he mean? I have a relationship with my cycling mates, but the law has no place in that relationship. He was talking about same-sex marriage. Yeah. I'm genuinely confused.
Indeed, and as much as and as often as you can call me smart, and I enjoy you doing that, I honestly, I don't want to speculate on what Kevin meant.
All right. The government doesn't want to be distracted by same-sex marriage. Has the Barnaby Joyce saga helped with that?
I don't think that was the kind of thing that we were thinking of. Look, at the moment, I hope you realise that I have given up being in the House of Reps to hear the Prime Minister talk about how our commitment to the South Pacific has been successful, how we've restored law and order there, and that mission is now coming to an end. They're the sorts of things that I think we should all be focused on, because it's an example of Australia's ability to make a contribution to the world and to our region that is quite a positive one.
Well, the thing that the Treasurer wanted to focus in on, in all seriousness, this morning was these costings from the Parliamentary Budget Office that he referred to that showed that the cost of Labor's taxation plans and all the rest of it, its policy adjustments, were much higher than had previously been mooted. The only problem was that the PBO issued a statement saying that they weren't their costings.
No, they said that it wasn't their modelling, which is slightly different. You know, there's lies, damn lies and economic modelling. But the fact is that this is no secret. The Treasurer is just making the obvious point now, I think, that Labor has announced a series of policies that is an attack on Australian families, hard-working Australian families, an attack on enterprise, an attack on opportunity, an attack, in fact, on the ideal of Australian aspiration.
Do you find it concerning? I wrote about this in The Australian today. I did a little to-camera piece a moment ago on it. The coalition is going down the path of this postal survey or plebiscite or whatever it is. It's energising younger people to join the electoral roll. Now, I get, as politicians, you're going to always say you want everyone to be enrolled, yada, yada, yada. I get that. But having said that...
You took the words out of my mouth.
Sure, but the evidence does show that these younger people who are enrolling vote left-wing, not right-wing. You've got to at least work with me on this, Jason Falinski. You can see the irony here, can't you, that Conservatives have been trying to use this plebiscite as a sort of a slow-down mechanism when it comes to same-sex marriage, but what they've done is they've energised a cohort of voters. You might say that's a good thing, but they've energised a cohort of voters who otherwise wouldn't bother to enrol to vote because they don't want to have to turn out or pay the fine. Now they will turn out because they won't want to pay the fine, and they're likely to vote against your side of politics.
Look, I don't agree with that, obviously, PVO, as a statement or as a premise. I would say this, that my observation in my community, and I understand my community may not be like the rest of Australia, but from what I've seen and from what I'm hearing, there is a lot, the more of the predictor around a yes or a no vote on this question of same-sex marriage is age. It cuts across religion, it cuts across party affiliation. You have a lot of people who are younger who support the Liberal Party, but on this issue they find themselves saying that they will be voting yes. You have a lot of older people who tend to vote for the Labor Party who on this issue will be voting no. I don't think it's as simple as you're as you're making it out to be. I think the other point that I would make is that under Australian electoral laws, it's very difficult to remain unenrolled in Australia. We have automatic enrolments for people. The AEC has cross data with people, even to the point where a friend of mine, his daughter, moved into an apartment in Paddington, signed a lease, and the AEC sent them a letter 3 days later saying, we noticed you've just moved in to this new property, you need to enrol at this address. So we have a very thorough program of making sure that people are on the roll in Australia. So I don't think it's going to get people who aren't on the roll to be on the roll who wouldn't otherwise be on the roll, if that makes any sense.
I just wanted to play something that Stephen Chobo said about the importance of, members of Parliament being aware and accountable for their citizenship, and just get your reaction to Barnaby Joyce and whether you think it applies to him. Let's take a look.
It is basically an unforgivable mistake. I mean, the situation where someone wouldn't know they're a dual citizen. I mean, this is one of the basics of any competent political party, to run through these issues. And, all of us know that it's a constitutional requirement. And frankly, it doesn't matter which political party you're in. If you haven't done it, then it's sloppy at the extreme.
Sloppy in the extreme. He was talking about the Greens, but, what goes around comes around. Would you agree?
No, I don't agree with that, because there is a discernible difference between someone who was born overseas, who would have on their passport that they were born overseas, and someone who is in Barnaby's situation, and other people's situations where you're born in Australia and, it's not an unreasonable premise to believe that you are therefore Australian and therefore able to be elected to Parliament under Section 44(1).
Putting all of this aside, are you frustrated, though, that the government is struggling for clean air? I mean, I wrote on the weekend about the pillars underpinning Bill Shorten's success in the polls, and frankly how shaky a number of them are in terms of their negative gearing policy, their family trusts attack, a host of other issues that, quite frankly, they have, including his union ties and the way that that could be turned against him. But there isn't a cut-through, and it's not necessarily the fault of the attack coming from the government. It's all the distractions that are in play, and you can't just blame the media. I mean, at the end of the day, these are distractions that are well reportable.
Look, PVO, you write many fine articles, and that was one of your finest ones, I have to say. But the fact of the matter remains that, look, we need to get our message out. At the moment, the media is distracted by things that are of not great importance, and we have to learn to deal with that. I think it was Powell who once said, if you're in politics, complaining about the media is a bit like being in the Navy and complaining about the sea. So you guys are a challenge that we face, and we just need to work out the solution to that challenge.
So you say complaining about the media is like complaining about the sea if you're in the Navy, but Peter Dutton complains about the media all the time.
Does he? Well, Peter's been in this game a lot longer than I have been, so maybe he's got more to complain about.
You should go and have a word to him, I think. I like the analogy. All right, we're out of time. Jason Falinski, appreciate your time as always. Thanks very much.
Thanks, PVO.
Cheers.